We'll hear from both sides tonight, but right now I want to bring in Senator Dianne Feinstein. She's the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. Welcome to you.
Thank you, Piers.
It's obviously a very tense situation there. It could go, as Wolf said just now, either way, really. We could wake up tomorrow and see a ceasefire, or we could see an escalation in the bloodshed. What do you think it's going to take to try and guarantee some form of ceasefire?
Well, I think this is a very serious situation. I think Israel has a right to defend itself. I think 12 years of missiles coming in, 13,000 of them, now longer-range missiles that can hit at the heart of Israel's most historic city, Jerusalem, its biggest city, Tel Aviv. I think this is a very serious situation. And I'm very pleased that Secretary of State Clinton has chosen to go there. I think this underlines the seriousness of it. I think it's a wake-up call for the moderate Arab nations, and I think it's going to be a point of decision for Egypt. Either Egypt is going to be able to negotiate an arrangement whereby these missiles stop, and there is some incentive for Egypt to really take a position to handle what has been a very fanatical and smart terrorist organization. The United States holds Hamas as a terrorist organization. And I also think that this may well open an opportunity to be able to look again at a two-state solution. I mean, this has to be solved. It goes on and on and on. And this isn't the Middle East of before the Arab Spring. We're now going into the Arab winter with instability, with a tumultuous situation in a large number of countries in that area. So moderate Arab countries have to come out and lead, and particularly the biggest one of all, which is Egypt. We will see.
It's a very complex situation for the new President Morsi, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you have a lot of Arabs baying for blood, quite literally saying, listen, Israelis are slaughtering, over 100 now Palestinians in a week. You cannot be seen to acquiesce to this and not be supportive of the Palestinians. At the same time, he's a new guy who's come in. He's aware of his place in the world. He wants to make a mark, and he'll be keen not to alienate either Israel or America. If you're him, you're in a very difficult position.
Well, that's true. But I hope people see Hamas for what it is, and that is using their own people as human shields, putting these missiles and rockets in places right in the middle of residential areas, in homes, in mosques, in parks. You don't do this. I mean, this borders on being an international war crime. Now, the problem is that Hamas isn't a member of either of the organizations, the Geneva Conventions or others, that would hold this as a war crime. So it's a very difficult situation. Our solidarity has to be with Israel. This is a point where Israel has been under attack for a long period of time, and nothing has solved it. And also, during this period of time, I think the importance of achieving a two-state solution really cannot be underestimated. There's going to be no more better partner than Mahmoud Abbas. And I think to a great extent, the inability to enable Israel and the Palestinians to come together. Perhaps this will provide that opportunity. Perhaps the Secretary of State will play a very dominant role. After all, her husband came the closest of anybody to establishing a two-state solution. So she knows exactly where all of this stands and what might be able to solve what has been an historic and very difficult situation.
But part of the problem for Mahmoud Abbas is that he's being increasingly seen to be marginalized. Hamas are seen to be the emerging power there, with more control perhaps over the body of Palestinians. And he is seen as somebody slightly out of touch from where the real action is. Now, how does he deal with that? What does he do now to try and wrestle back some kind of control? Because at the moment you have him on one side with the Palestinian Authority and the West Bank, which is is, you know, much more prosperous than Gaza is. On the other hand, you have this terribly oppressed Gaza, which is run by Hamas. They're two completely separate areas, aren't they?
Well, that's right, and there's a lot of difference of opinion there. I think Israel moving forward with Mahmoud Abbas is the only way to go. And to miss this opportunity, actually, because the window is closing, the demographics of the area are making it increasingly difficult because the Arab population inside of Israel is increasing every year. So this is, in my book, it is an opportunity. And if the moderate Arab nations would ever really step up to really be helpful in solving this, I believe it could be solved. You've got a couple of very thorny issues, but the geography of it has been pretty well worked out over the years.
If I can just ask you one question about Benghazi, Senator. The key unanswered question appears to be, after everything we've been through in the last few weeks, is who it was that decided to remove from the intelligence report the fact that the attack was probably linked to an al-Qaeda group. Are we any nearer to knowing the answer to that question?
Well, we have a process in place to find that out. And the Senate Intelligence Committee has made very clear, and I made it clear in the meeting, that we want that whole process from A to Z gone through. And who made what changes. From the initial analysis done by the CIA, we want to know who did what. I believe that the White House only changed one thing, and that was the word consulate to mission. I do not believe that any part of the administration, in the sense of the White House, made any changes. And we know when Director Petraeus came to the Senate Intelligence Committee the day after the event, and we happen to have a transcript of this, that he gave us his view that this was in fact a terrorist attack. But there was some reluctance of including one of the groups, which was al-Qaeda. This is sort of a loose thing with people kind of knitting together, quite possibly from 3 different groups. But it was an attack, and there should be no doubt about that. Nonetheless, Susan Rice has been pilloried because she did what was required of her, which was to use those talking points. So we really need to know, and she is getting the blame for it, and quite unfairly.
Well, she'll continue to get the blame, of course, until somebody else is fingered for it, because clearly she was passing on what she was told, but that was not the correct picture, and the correct picture was suppressed by somebody. And I hope that you're able to wrestle the answers out for us.
Well, that's right, and the correct picture, this was on the 11th, didn't really emerge till 10 days later, which really raises the question with all the hundreds of threat warnings, with what had happened before in the country, why did it take so long to know what had happened? As you know, we saw a film, real time, from out of doors, put together from both drone footage as well as camera footage at the facility itself. And, you know, there was no one out front. There was no demonstration out front. And the militia, which is unarmed, the minute they saw the guns, they disappeared. And it's a good lesson not to use these militias, and particularly if they're not trained, if they're not armed, if they don't have the will. And I'm very much of the view that we need to protect our facilities. We have 285 of them, diplomatic facilities, and intelligence is key to determining the level of protection, and we must provide it.
Senator Feinstein, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.